Hey, Akito, what you got there?
Nice! No! Yeah. All right, welcome, everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Fruits Basket, Season 3, Episode 9. Oh, boy. Akito's here.
This is the end game. We are going to save Akito.
That's right, but I get the feeling that before that happens, we are not only going to get some emotional damage, but we're about to get some physical damage. Toru's going to get stabbed. I'm just saying it right now so we can prepare ourselves.
I will just say, there's no possibility that she dies.
Oh, yes.
From any kind of stabbing.
She is definitely not going to die, but she is going to get stabbed. It's going to be a scare. It's going to be close. And that will be where Kyo then has to deal with the fact that, yes, you ran away, but the thing is, this isn't your fault. So, you know, love yourself and forgive yourself and accept yourself and all that.
Yeah. That's the journey for pretty much all these characters.
Right.
But Akito also has her own journey that she's going on.
Yep.
And Tohru is the one that really should talk with Akito, not because Akito deserves anything necessarily, but because, in some ways, Tohru can learn a lot even from Akito in the same way that Akito can learn an incredible amount from Tohru.
Yep.
So having these two just together, alone, one-on-one, once the knife is put down, obviously, there can be some really cool interactions here. And I'm really excited for those.
Yes.
So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Holy shit. Did we just get the conflict finale in episode 9 and there's four more episodes left?
Yeah.
I am so excited because this was so stressful, and yet I had this faith. There's no way Tohru could die.
Right.
But
not gonna happen.
But Akito with the knife had me thinking, and I didn't want to say them out loud, but I had some other darker things that could have happened of Akito hurting herself.
Sure.
Doing something that would be maybe like a,
Akito was
some other just very drastic stuff. So I'm really glad that Akito did not actually intend to murder Tohru here, or even
or act on the intent,
or even act on it.
Because she definitely seemed like she was planning on it. But then Tohru does the thing that Tohru always does.
Right.
She runs towards the issue with no regard for her own safety.
Yeah, exactly.
And Akito, if Akito had just held the knife where it was, Akito would have stabbed her, right? But even in the act of hurting Tohru, she was basically saying get away, and also doing something that would might have had a little bit of thought towards Toru's own safety, just because of the dissonance of being like, what are you doing? Why are you not thinking of your own safety at all?
Yeah, it's the sadness of Akito is crying out and doesn't want to be alone.
Right.
And yet, from her perspective here in the beginning of the episode, she's very much thinking, but you're the reason why I'm alone, and yet you went to another person to cry out your feelings, so you're not alone, Akito.
Yeah.
And what do you know? The person that you're crying your feelings out towards is someone that is filled with such a well of compassion that even though Tohru has gone through this incredible arc, where she now understands a lot more of her own self-worth and her capacity to express her own feelings with regards to things. And, she's still, not perfect or what have you, but she's got a lot of things worked out here. She's able to understand and immediately empathize and see the similarities between her and Akito, that they both wanted things to stay the same.
Right.
They both wanted an eternity unchanged.
With
very specific bonds, or a bond. And
that was...
Oh, God, I just love to see her realize that. That was so cool, because it didn't have to happen.
Nope.
Like, you could have this story go without her realizing the parallel, in such a strong way. She could maybe think about it and be like, oh.
Right. And as far as the the characters themselves, they are about as polar opposites as you can get, especially with thematically what they represent in the story. But it came out of a similar desire.
Well, right. It's in some ways they're so truly opposite that that's actually why they're parallel. Is because
Right, exactly.
they're literally occupying both halves of the same whole.
Yeah. It's the if things had been different circumstantially, right?
Yeah.
They might have ended up in swapped places, or at the very least Tohru might have ended up in a situation similar to Akito's, who knows?
And also if they didn't have all these reasons to be antagonized by each other or to be antagonistic, like from Akito's side of things, or Toru's antagonism from Akito's point of view, they would have actually commiserated quite a bit together over the desires that they each had, because their characters were ones that wanted to be in the family. They wanted to be connected. They wanted to be needed. They wanted to be wanted. And because of how much they craved that, they did things that were unhealthy to the point of desperation, and thus in some cases, especially with Akito, pushed people away.
And the funny notion that, like, at the end the question is, did you push Tohru?
Right.
Did you push her away? Because pushing her away in that moment would have resulted in this. Like, there's so much of how this episode ended up going that I absolutely adore. From like the character decisions, but then also like the choice of having the cliff crumble underneath Tohru.
Yes.
Right? That's so perfect. And
It's
the thing
so
is,
perfect,
the thing is that I usually very much do not like act of God developments
I was
that
going to
result
say
in
that.
almost
Yeah.
deaths
Yes.
in wholesome dramas, right? Because death is not it has no place as a plot point, right? That it's not that kind of story, right?
Right.
We know that Toru's not actually going to die.
Exactly.
Right?
Now,
we're
there
still scared
could be-
regardless because
There could be consequences. Like, she
Exactly.
could break her leg here.
Sure.
And she could have a really bad head injury that causes her to have an equilibrium issue for the rest of her life, or something.
just the consequences of this intense, crazy scare that, like, imagine if Kyo wasn't able to then deal with it well, and then it traumatized him to a point that he isn't able to get better or whatever. Who knows? We still haven't seen him visit her in the hospital, right? So, like, it's something where with Akito, Tohru stuck to her guns that have served her very well in the past, but have a problem because she doesn't consider her own safety. And she did get hurt as a result of that. But she also got lucky in that Akito did not do what maybe Akito was planning to do when she went there.
And that's because Akito was not really prepared for either end of this.
Yeah,
she
right,
was not
exactly.
prepared to kill Tohru, and she was also not prepared to see Tohru's true self.
Right. There were things that neither party could have been fully prepared for. Neither party could have fully known about the other person and even about themselves.
But they saw each other.
Yeah. But the fact that Tohru made that decision, that's something that, like in the past, she got lucky. And her luck ran out on the cliff.
Yeah.
Right? Even though Akito, she was able to reach her.
Yeah.
Right? It's something where... And the whole idea of, like, let's start over. Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Toru Honda. What's yours?
It's
right?
so
that
simple and beautiful.
That was absolutely fucking perfect, right? But oh wait, right above the spot where she camped her tent.
I like that they showed the tent earlier, because I was like, wait,
okay.
wait a minute.
What's the
thing there? What?
Right. Like, all right, okay. Like, all
so
right. It's
long,
you're
I
at a
forgot.
cliff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But like, oh yeah, no, a landslide. Right.
Maybe they were specifically worried about back then. Yeah.
Maybe something just doesn't quite work out well when you put yourself in danger like this, right? The fact that it's not Akito means that we can have a very nice resolution still to the interpersonal conflict, so we don't have to have some kind of rushed Akito being, like, redeemed after stabbing Tohru of the episode prior or something.
It also just gives more agency to Akito in general to have it be a
Exactly.
thing where Akito specifically recoiled the knife, and yet Akito did in reflex slash at Tohru and like, assaulted her.
Right.
So
Akito slapped her hand away when she was like, "Nice to meet you."
Right.
If Akito had embraced her at that point, she might have moved further away from the edge and then not fallen, right?
Maybe.
Very similar situation to Kyo of like, if you had done something bad might not have happened, but that's different than doing the bad
fault.
thing herself, right?
Right.
You know, she did not actually push Tohru,
Another
even
thing-
though she has pushed girls off of ledges before, you know?
Another thing, Akito was the one that ran into the forest. The one that chased after Akito was Tohru.
That was not something that Tohru... That's also not necessarily a very good idea. Akito had already dropped the knife, but, like, you don't have to do that.
Did you recognize the parallel, though, with Kyo running away into the forest?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
After him.
Yep. So this is something that is a consequence of Toru's actions, even though she could not have foreseen that we're at the spot where the tent was and there was the landslide, the ground still, whatever. There was rain, so, it's unstable, all of those things.
Yeah, totally.
But
yeah, the idea of this being the other kind of act of God aspect, which is that Akito has lamented that recently the bonds that she's become accustomed to and kind of uses as a crutch are being taken away from her by a form of an act of God. There is no logical reason as to why they're going in this order or this severity or in this time frame. It's all a bit random. But in the same way with Tohru here, a connection that you might have had the opportunity to make because you did not accept it immediately, it was ripped away from you. And thus, we're going to have a moment in the next episode where Akito comes back to Tohru and embraces her and takes her hand.
Whatever that interaction ends up being.
Right, but I just love how the episode ended like that because it's the coming back to, would you like to do that over again even then?
Yeah.
Because I understand that we missed out that opportunity. So Tohru extends the hand first while Akito is on the other side of the door. And then Akito just crosses the threshold, enters the home. You can almost hear the tadaima in Akito's mind as the music changes to the happy, triumphant ED. And then it's just, okay, here we go. Let's start a new chapter. And in some ways, that's the part I'm the most excited about here. This episode gave us all this tension, and we can get into the stuff with Kyo and Toru's confession of sorts in her unconscious state to Kyo. There's so much in that. But the idea that the next episode will be the new norm for Fruits Basket. Shigure got what he wanted.
And you were a cold motherfucker this episode. Holy shit.
Well, yeah, but there's an aspect of this that I don't think Shigure was expecting, which was what Akito did here. This is not the way Shigure planned this. Right. Shigure planning.
He plans in generals, not in specifics. I'm going to make it so I'm going to push Akito to her breaking point. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she's going to specifically do this
and end the curse, basically herself. So now, okay, we're in a situation now where every bond that people were wanting to have through natural means, not through forced means or through deception or through posturing or anything like that, is possible, is on the table.
One of the things,
the big one that needs to be, figured out though mechanically, Kyo, with being the cat, and then also just the deal of being the cat, but also Akito's still who she is, she's not stopped that. That hasn't changed.
She had a good day, and now she's seen the path forward.
So now she needs to walk it.
Right, exactly.
And that's how I want to tie this into the Tohru, Kyo, begging, pleading, confession, love thing. Because didn't she just love the way she was like, okay, I'm going ahead of you, Mom. But it wasn't until much later in her monologue that we then see Kyo ahead of her.
Right.
It's just framed as her and her mom in the beginning.
And just the idea of her leaving her mom behind,
right?
And how that's Like the
growing up.
it's growing up, but like
Yeah.
the parallel to Akito is obvious.
Oh, very
You know,
obvious, yes.
of like the bonds need to be broken. You know, but that kind of feeling and that kind of growth, the growing up thing where you separate from the parents. You know, even more so if they've passed away, right?
Absolutely.
You need to live your own life, move on. You know, not that
Yeah.
you don't love them anymore, but it's the letting go of them. Right.
Yeah, it's the idea of love is something that's so powerful that you don't need to limit it to basically just always having the one person that you've loved the most your
Right.
whole life. And you're like, okay, I can never love anybody as much as that person.
Even
There's
though
a-
it seems like you won't be able to, you know, maybe.
Right. There's a form of it that is very much like a breakup.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a really bad breakup, which Akito is kind of going to be going through a form of
Oh, yeah.
over the course of this, there's a lot of metaphysical and emotional and spiritual
very-
and traumatizing aspects of this whole thing. But the idea that Tohru is essentially breaking up with that bond and going towards the next one just because Kyo is someone that she really loves or someone that is incredibly important to her. She's attracted to him. All these things that make her want to be with him and want to love him as much as possible. This is something she could do with anyone. It's not something that she's limited to in that one way. She can extend that same love, if you will, not obviously the romantic side,
Right,
of things,
but
but to Akito, the person that doesn't deserve it, the person that isn't her object of affection or what have
Right.
you, the person that isn't her number one. You can have bonds, you can have that love extended out in a
Right.
way that isn't an unhealthy sacrificing of yourself to the point where you put yourself in physical harm either.
Right. You don't have to be bound by your love.
Exactly.
Right.
Love is not a
Like-
thank you. That was a very simple
like
way to
it's-
put it. Yes, thank you.
Because that's what her love with her mom was. Right. Even though it was very much a positive thing, that's what it kind of turned into because,
Yeah.
you know, it's because of the whole situation.
Yeah, there's a
right?
whole situation there.
right?
Yep.
And that's why it's not something that's solved quickly, right? Because it's complicated, you know.
We wish it would be.
It's a sensitive subject and all of those things, right? But so now she's here. And she's able to she's able to move on. She's able to have this, and I think another parallel to that we got in this episode that was really wonderful was Akito and Momiji. Because
yeah.
Momiji was the most recent bond break, right? And it was something where Momiji has also changed a lot, not just physically, but also in how he comports himself and like so
he also expressed his feelings to the audience in a lot of ways with Tohru.
to the audience with Tohru, to Akito, like this whole situation, and I want to make comparison to when Momiji stood up to Akito. I believe it was at the beach house when Akito was there and Akito confronted Tohru. It might have been a different scene. I can't quite remember, but
I think that's right.
But that was one of the early confrontations of Akito with Tohru. It might have even been the first one. I can't remember.
might have been the first
like,
one.
Like there was the time when they met at school, but like the actual like
Yes, the first actual confrontation was at the beach house. Yeah,
right where it's like
was at nighttime.
they're kind of the only ones there, right? Like
There's
they're
boys
not in
watching.
public, right? But you know,
Yeah,
so stuff can happen there, right? Momiji was the you know young, cute, like very much doing his best to appease Akito, but not really standing standing up to Akito, but
Right.
in the way that he could at that point, right?
Yeah.
Now we have a situation where the bond has been broken. Momiji is the expressions that we got from Momiji. Holy shit!
Yeah.
Like if looks could kill, right?
yeah. Momiji was very much giving the like, I haven't forgiven you yet.
Nope.
They're bakas, hopeless idiots. Yeah, but you know they have their uses because you know.
Yeah, you're lucky, right? You
if
know,
it
this
was,
worked out
you know,
great,
anybody else,
You'd be in jail.
Be in jail right now. Yeah.
right? So you're happy about that, right?
And Momiji's like, I would have not defended you.
Exactly,
I would
exactly.
have testified, gone on to
Yep,
the stand.
And you would be locked up right now.
Right. And you understand, like, you wouldn't be able to stop me. I'm not
Nope.
bound by you anymore.
Right, exactly.
Like,
But the scene ends with Momiji handing a handkerchief to Akito
Extending
for
a
her
hand.
tears. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's only able to happen because the bond was broken. That wouldn't have happened otherwise, right? Bond breaking was painful by Akito, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
But that was genuine.
But that was genuine,
Yeah,
right?
I think the most powerful thing I can see happening for Akito here is that Akito kind of needs to, in some ways, start an arc. And this is going to be really clever or tricky or
Because only 4
ambitious,
episodes left.
because you only have 4 episodes left. But I feel like what they have to do with Akito here is you have to start almost a new journey for her character, and you either do a time skip, which is something that's understandable for a story like this, but you can have that maybe at the very end.
Right.
But what you can also do is frame it around conversations that are not one group all there talking to Akito, but a bunch of little conversations that Akito has with a bunch of different Soma family members.
Yeah, yeah.
And the big one is going to be Shigure.
Yes.
The big one is going to be Shigure. Because Shigure really wants Akito. Actually really wants Akito. And there's some shit there. But before that happens, Akito needs to talk to Kyo. Akito needs to talk to Yuki.
Yep.
And Akito, in some ways, needs to talk to her mom.
Yeah.
And those conversations are not going to be fun, Akito.
Nope. But
And there is something that I would very much like to see. I don't want it to be full on Beauty and the Beast, like light transformation and all that.
Right,
But,
right.
I want to have a moment of Akito having gone through a little bit of a journey. And in some ways, if Tohru is in the hospital, mechanically, story-wise, it makes sense to have
for there
Tohru,
to be a time skip.
Well, to have Tohru also be out of the story a little bit.
Even though she's the main character, it's the now.
Right.
It's a great way to pass the baton.
Yeah, you can give time to characters that are not her.
Right.
And it won't feel like you're robbing the story from things pacing wise.
Well, and also if you think about it from another standpoint, given that Toru's the main character, right?
Yeah.
Her progression, her story, the end of her story is when the story ends, right? Because she's the main character. That's how it works, So, by having her be in the hospital, even though some of the characters might be at the point where character-wise they have been able to have the change of hearts that allow for that to be the climax of their narrative, the actual consummation, if you will, the finalization, the enactment of that change of heart in space-time, right, in the physical world, can happen then later because it's not going to be happening right now for very obvious reasons.
But the fact that there's 4 episodes means in my perceived way that this show can end, there's like an episode and a half of I have no idea what they do with. So I'm really curious to see that this is a kind of thing where they either really accelerate the pacing even more, or they actually slow it down tremendously so that they can focus on very detailed little one-on-one or one-on-one-on-one conversations.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are going to be those one-on-one conversations that you were talking about, especially with Akito.
Which will slow down the pacing.
But we already got one of those, and I would say almost the most important one of those with Kureno.
Yes.
And that was something where I loved how that went down because...
It's mostly Akito's thoughts.
It was mostly Akito's thoughts and what Akito didn't say. But this shows what Akito learned from Tohru in a lot of ways. Because while Akito and Tohru are very similar in motivations, polar opposites in the way they act and behave, and how you might look at them from the outside, right? Akito has also been opposites with regards to Toru's big weakness. Tohru thinks of others way too much to the detriment of herself. Akito has been thinking about herself to the detriment of others, right? Doesn't ever really think about others. It's all me. In this situation, she did something that was to the detriment of herself for the sake of someone else.
Right.
Now, you wouldn't want to have that as the
mantra.
As the mantra, right?
Yeah.
But as a way to balance out, right, what Akito's habits are.
Right.
It's a great place to start.
Great place to start, yeah.
Letting Kureno go, right? Not not communicating her feelings on the matter because, of course, Kureno would, would go back to her because that's the kind of person that he is, right? And so then she can truly be on her own. She can take some time to date herself, right? And then truly figure out who she is and grow and all that stuff, and it's going to be wonderful. And I'm also holding out hope that will mean then that Uo and Kureno can get together, because Tohru's in the hospital. We didn't show Hana and Uo this episode, even though they're absolutely going to come visit her.
Skip, yeah.
No, right. Yeah, after a time skip, they're not going to show up at the hospital and immediately get together. But they're definitely, like, if I were to think of, like, immediate next episode stuff that's going to happen, Uo and Hana are going to need to be shown, like, visiting Tohru at the hospital.
I honestly think the next episode is going to focus so much on Tohru, Akito, Shigure, and, like, Yuki and Kyo, like, the main characters, that we're then going to, from there, establish whatever the new status quo is for, like, structure-wise. Sure. And then maybe at the end of the episode, Uo will be made aware. Because who's going to tell her? Like, it has to be Tohru, right?
Wait, what?
Who's going to tell
Uo and Hana that Tohru's in the hospital?
No, that Kureno is in the hospital.
Oh, no, that Kureno's in the hospital. Yeah, no, that can be something totally else.
Obviously, of course, they'll find out that Tohru...
Yuki and Kyo are going to be like...
Yeah, but I'm saying that with regards to Kureno...
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that's going to happen in this next episode.
Oh, I thought that's what you
but exactly said. No, that Uo and Hana are going to visit Tohru in the next episode.
Yeah, of course.
That is like I mean, I feel like that's almost a guarantee.
They don't have to, but they absolutely will, at least in the second episode.
Yeah, if it doesn't show it in this next episode, it's either going to be because, in my mind, the episode takes place over a very short amount of time in universe,
right?
Or because it's the assumed that, yes, they are absolutely visiting, but that's not necessarily immediately
what the show needs to focus on,
relevant right now. So it focuses on it later.
Yeah, because you could show like 8 people in the hospital lobby, and they're like, well, she's okay, she's resting, she's sleeping,
right?
And they're just like, oh, okay. Well,
exactly. It doesn't need to take up a lot of the episode for sure.
Yeah.
But
I very much loved, though, Tohru's monologue of confessing her love for Kyo. The moments where she's unconscious or she's dazed and, kind of head spinning and,
Right. Tears. Whose tears? Akito's, Kyo's, Yeah.
And just bringing about all this emotion with regards to... Because I just got to bring this part of the episode up again, because when she started like flashing through all the memories and stuff that she has with Kyo,
and like how it started,
every little bit of him that she's in love with. Please don't cry anymore. Just like the happy and fun times eventually end, the scary and sad times end too. Always, even if you can't believe it right now, please keep living. I want you to live. Yeah,
it's okay if you make mistakes or take the long way around.
Yeah, the idea that she's like, I love you so much that I'm thinking entirely of you here. I'm not saying live for me. I'm not saying live so that I can see you again. It's just live. Don't feel like you have to be, a dead man here. Like, keep putting a foot in front of the other. Don't give up. Keep fighting, because there's a possibility that I might not be by your side.
Yep.
And I'm very excited about the possibility that, based on the way this was set up, that Tohru and Kyo are not going to immediately, once she's conscious, share a perfect kiss or what have you, but it's going to be a sweet, tender moment of expressing their pain, their emotions regarding this whole thing, and it's going to be a lot of crying. I think it's going to be probably one of the most vulnerable moments we'll see from Kyo, where Tohru is actually able to be there and see it, because sometimes Kyo is very vulnerable with Kazuma, but he's not as vulnerable with other people. And he's been vulnerable with Tohru for sure. But like,
it's vulnerable for Kyo.
I would love to see total vulnerability from Kyo while Tohru is conscious.
Right, exactly. Because we got that here, but she's unconscious.
Right, and while she did hold his hand and stuff, she was she did wake up. I want to see this continued, but not immediately go into the like, now we've had our
right. There were. Tohru hasn't gotten the chance to out loud tell Kyo that she loves him, right?
Well,
that's going to happen, but that is not going to be the only thing that happens. There's going to be a lot of other stuff surrounding it.
Yeah. I'm wanting to draw focus and attention to the emotional sharing of the pain that they've gone through in all this, not the sharing of the feelings. In some ways, I am not even really like concerned or even like interested, because I know that's going to happen at some point. But I feel like his line here of "I get it, it's okay, no need to talk." He knows what she's trying to do here.
Right.
It's not important that she does that even. I think what's important from my perspective is that Kyo lets out all those emotions as well in a way after she's woken up from the hospital and stuff like that. Because this moment here where she's like, keep putting a foot in the other, and then where is it? And then she's like, so that I can reach you.
Right. It's something where her emotions have reached him because he knows the kind of person that she is, right? So it's, so there's no need to talk, right? Mm-hmm. But these are things that are not actually being said, right? So in the same way, like, so seeing these things be said and, that'll be great to see.
And then Shigure with his like little bit with Hattori, and Hattori's like, wait, just a little? It's like, oh, that's quite a concession coming from me. But that little bit of seeing Tohru without seeing her eyes there, but her hands up. Okay, I don't think they're gonna go for any like Tohru has suffered like a permanent injury. But there's
but because they didn't show her face, you're like,
there's two things that might be on the table here. She could end up in a wheelchair. That's very possible.
She did land on her back.
She landed on and hit her head. Her skull or skin cracked.
Yeah, I think she could definitely end up in a wheelchair when she's discharged from the hospital, but isn't fully better yet.
The other one that is sometimes I've seen done in romance stories near the end that I'm not always, it's a bit 50-50 for me, is some kind of sense-based injury. And because she hit her head and they didn't show her eyes, I don't think that she's potentially deaf or lost sense of anything, but I think there is a 1% chance that she might have vision issues.
Okay.
And I just wanted to throw that out there as a weird theory.
Yeah,
because they didn't show her eyes. And I was I don't know why
that did feel like a very particular choice. I feel like maybe it's something where
but I think that's a dumb theory. Just throwing it out there because I like having dumb theories.
Yeah, I feel like most of the time when I think of like the eyes being concealed for a character, it's either because there's, to keep an element of mystery or something like that, or because we know what the emotion is, but we're not being shown it because it's something that is precious, or someone is afraid of the emotion or something like that, right? And so you don't see their eyes when they're scared or angry or or nervous, or happy. Well, maybe happy less so, but like I could see that being the case where Tohru is the one that we know about entirely here. We know what her feelings are in this situation, right? And because of that, it's a way to like keep the focus more on Akito and her expression and things like that, because that's where the new information is coming from. That's the emotional change. That's all of that stuff. But yeah, it did feel kind of like
it felt like an interesting choice.
Right, exactly. Like there could be something more to it than what I immediately perceive,
Yeah.
But
yeah. You both saw each other.
Yep.
Yeah. So maybe. No, I don't know. I don't think that.
It's something where I did not expect that this episode would end in such a happy way. I thought that because there are 4 episodes after this, I thought it was going to be something where this episode was going to be a much harder episode, right? With less like triumphs and wins and things like that.
In some ways, I feel like the part that they might have done that I'm glad that they didn't was they could have gone into more Akito backstory stuff and thus slowed the pacing down a bit.
But no, they kept the tension of the scene. We know what the situation is for everybody. We don't need any additional context. We have it all.
Yeah. I feel like there is potential additional context that could still be added with regards to Akito, but
that's more in the as she's processing and walking the path kind of a thing.
I feel like that's something that we will get later. Like that's if they do that,
Okay.
that's something that makes sense to do now in the next like 4 episodes.
Right.
Because I feel like we've hit that point also where it's we're at the end, we can't afford to have any more, halt the time in the present,
Right.
go back, get more context
Yeah,
stuff.
Akito even said it. This is the end, right? Like, so
Yeah.
from a TV show standpoint, from a story standpoint, all of
Yeah.
the things that happen from this point on are going to be very intentional. There's not going to be any like just for the sake of doing it kind of things,
Well, I'm not talking about intention. I'm talking about pacing with just the idea of having this scene or this episode be one where you have maybe a bit more understanding of the characters if you get a little bit more backstory stuff, because anime loves to do that. But it just felt so efficient and tight and strong with that to where I very much am happy
yes.
that we didn't get that and that we kept things
Right.
going progress-wise.
And I think I think that's going to continue through to the end of the show, at this point.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all right. Okay. I mean, yeah, let's have a happy next 4 episodes
Okay.
of Akito development.
Good conversations.
Tohru and
Tohru.
Kyo.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
Yep,
lot of
yep.
the people just kind of talking about the ways they're going to move forward with this. Are there going to be any more bonds immediately broken before things change within Akito especially?
Yep.
Are there going to be some new understandings of the mechanics of the world with regards to the zodiac and the god and what have you, so that we can have a true final kind of defeating of that curse as well?
Right.
Because that's something that's probably the only true conflict left, but
And
it
yet
doesn't
it feels like an
necessarily
afterthought.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be some great conflict. It could be literally resolved in an episode at most.
I would not be surprised if after Akito, has the talks with everybody, and especially after with Kureno and hopefully her mom as well, she has a Kureno kind of moment where she just wakes up one day and all of the bonds are gone, right? And it's just like, oh, this is what life can be like,
It'll be interesting because I want there to be almost a little bit more of a, how would you say this? I want it to be a little bit more based on Akito's intent. I don't want it to be that way personally.
Well,
That's a very magical, beautiful thing.
the reason why I say that is not because it wouldn't be based on the intent, but it's after the intent happens, right? The Akito has done the things.
Did it work? I don't know. And then goes to sleep and then wakes up and
right. Exactly,
a new
right.
day dawns.
The Groundhog's Day thing, where it's like you don't know when it's going to end necessarily. You do the things, and then eventually, hey, it ends up.
Okay.
You get to tomorrow,
Sure. I'm just meaning in the sense that, when I think about a family that's been based around a very, very abusive family head with a situation where people involved are, taking kind of a passive stance. There's a lot of nuance to the idea that while you have abuse happening within the house, you also have people that are kind of letting it happen and what have you. I feel like there's more, to use a spiritual term, there's more ritual required than just waking up and it's gone.
even if it's like Akito going to each person knowing that it's breaking the curse, and
right. That's why I mentioned Beauty and the Beast earlier. It's not going to be a true love's kiss, but it's going to be some kind of family, ritual type thing where it's not literally a, burn incense or what have you, but an act of Akito's combined with everybody else, making sure that they can build this back up or tear down the existing structure. So I'm just excited for that to be not necessarily a dramatic conflict, but a process that involves time and not just a scene. It's it's a step-by-step thing, and regardless of whether or not we don't notice it as a ritual until we look back at it and go, oh,
Right.
okay, so those are the final 2 domino pieces right there.
Right.
you know?
I think my personal preference is the series of one-on-one conversations.
Yeah,
Where
that
it's
would work as well.
You know,
sure.
and there you go. And whether the curse breaking happens there or afterwards, or when they then all talk together or something, who knows? But
yeah. But all right, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
we stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
Next time.